So now that we got our player jumping and moving, it doesn't look like it's moving, but it is. We just don't have any obstacles on here. I think I want to do the obstacles next. Now, ChatGPT did give us some suggestions here about doing some what to do next. So it wants us to create the infinite environment after setting up the player. I would rather do the obstacle generation first, just because that's a core mechanic. And when you're prototyping out a game, you usually want to do your core mechanics first, so that you can test out the main things before moving into things like this is just environment, which isn't as important at this point. So let's see here what we can get it to do for us. What we want is we want it to generate us random objects along this path as the player is moving. Probably for now, we'll probably just keep it down along the z axis. Let's have it generate z axis along a certain width maybe that we can define, and then just keep on giving us things to add on to that. So let's see what it said for us to do here. So obstacle generation, design various 3D objects, which we'll do later. But we want to have them prefabs. Create a system that will spawn these obstacles randomly along the path, and collision detection. So let's do the path, the object spawning first. So write me the script that will spawn the objects from a prefab array. And then we'll also have it with along the z-axis with a user-defined width. Let's see what that does. Let's see if we can get something a little specific. Okay. Nice. I kind of like that. So right here it gives us the object prefabs array here. Width to spawn in between, and number of objects to spawn, which I didn't think of, but it thought that for us. So we're going to have an object spawner class here. So let's go back into Unity here. Let's create an empty, call this object spawner. We're going to add a new script here. Let's call this exactly what they had it here, which was the object spawner. I'm going to open this up, and just like last time, we're going to copy everything that the AI told us, and we're going to paste it into here. Not going to do any changes to it right now. Let's see what it has. Did it give us any errors? Okay, Unity was being a little bit weird. I had to restart Unity, and all of a sudden, now everything showed up fine. Okay, so it gave us some notes about using the script as well. So we attached to an empty game object, which we did. We can create some prefabs. So looks like it's using the spawn width to actually control the distance between the spawned objects, which we might not want to fix distance, so we might get it to rewrite that. So I want to try not to write any of the code myself. I want to try to get this to rewrite it. And then it also does here say that we can add customization to add stuff like object pooling, random rotations, and other stuff. So we'll get it to refine it in a little bit. I just want to sort of kind of get it working at the moment. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to create a cube. Let's just set this to 0, 0, 0. 1, 1, 1's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to create a folder in here called prefabs. We're going to drag this into the prefabs folder, and we're just going to rename something like obstacle. Yeah. Okay. So now what we can do is inside the object spawner, we can put this into our objects prefabs. So it's in here in our array. It's 5 apart for now. We can do a number of objects that spawn 10. So now technically if we hit play, it should spawn 10 of these. There we go. 10 of these that distance apart. Okay, so we got our object spawner started. We do probably want to randomize the rotation later on. For now, the position is happening only on the Z. We want to make that also happen on the X as well, so it can be placed just on the X. And then what we also want to probably do is move this to 0, and then move our player up, so that the objects, when they spawn, they're going to spawn on 0, and then it'll line up with where the player's walking all the time, right? And then we would adjust this to the prefab, so that the bottom of the prefab is right at the 0 mark, so it'll spawn on the ground all the time where we want it to go. So for now, I think what I want to do is maybe have it refine it so that we can have the position on the X as well. So can we do... Okay, so here we go. So this will allow us to set a range which obviously spawn on the X-axis to replace manually between minus spawn range and positive spawn range, which is perfect. What we'll do is, I'm just going to copy and paste this directly again, because I'm not really making any changes myself, so I want to try to do it all through ChatGPT. So let's update this. Should give us that range. Okay, so now if I hit play, it should randomly spawn them, yeah, in different distances. So we got them all in kind of all over the place. But now we can bring that range down depending on how far we want it to go. I can maybe do 5 for now. What I want to do also is I think I'm going to change this prefab for a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do the 3D object under the obstacle, called as visual, and then I'm going to remove these components from here. So then what we can do is we can actually move this up on the Y by 0.5, and that should put it right on the bottom there. So if we delete this cube and then spawn, it should spawn it directly on 0, because the bottom will be on 0. So we can use that to avoid. So let's crank this up. Let's spawn maybe 50 objects. Now what I also want to do is I want to have it just randomly spawn the distances apart, so it's not always always the same. So let's try doing that. Introduce minimum distance between objects and a maximum distance between objects. Okay, that's a good thinking. So you just need to keep track of the perfect. So we will have the minimum and the maximum distance, and then it'll actually do that instead, which is great. It's actually kind of thinking ahead of more. Like obviously, if I was making this myself, I would be a little bit more proactive to thinking of those things, but it's doing pretty good. So the spawn width, it might not even use anymore, does it? Yeah, the spawn width is not find width along the x-axis. It's not using that anymore, but that's okay. So a minimum distance. So if we want to have that, yeah, as 2, we can have that as maybe 10. And then hit this play. We'll see how that works. Okay, currently we can't jump. That was a bad spawn. Okay, so it looks like they are different distances away and randomly placed. Currently when we get hit, we kind of just get stuck. Okay, now let's get to update it so that we can actually have random rotation as well. Looks like it's giving us that same minimum maximum. and defaults it from 0 to 360, which is good. It's given us some customizability every time we ask it to do something. It looks like it is doing that fine. Let's hit play. Okay, and looks like they are randomly rotated. Well, that's perfect. AI is doing a great job. Again, I didn't have to code anything myself and prototype this out pretty quickly. So that's it for this one. Like it if you like it. Check out the next video and we'll see where we can go from here.